Our next stop on our Baltic cruise is 2 days in St. Petersburg.
I can see Russia from my deck.
It's the 4th of July, and it marks the halfway point in our cruise. We have booked an independent tour with SPB Tours. We're a smaller group of 12. Our schedule avoids the cruise ship crowds and saves us a few rubles. Our guide is Elena, and we start off with a sightseeing tour of the city.
St. Petersburg is younger than New York. These territories always belonged to Russia. Its northern neighbors, the Swedes, repeatedly tried to conquer these very territories. When the Swedish king succeeded in conquering these lands and building a number of fortresses. And of course, this development affected Russia greatly, as it got completely cut off from its southern and northern parts. Besides, it lost the outlet to the Baltic, and when Peter took over, he decided to return these territories back to Russia. Ladies and gentlemen, now get your cameras ready, please, because on your right-hand side, down the canal, you can see one of the loveliest views. You can see the building of the Spilled Blood Cathedral, which we are visiting tomorrow.
Our first stop is in front of the Imperial Academy of Arts to see two sphinxes that date back 3,500 years. They originally stood in Egypt on the Alley of the Sphinxes, in front of the tomb of the pharaoh Amenhotep III. This large bronze is a monument to Nicholas I, who in the 1800s was the Emperor of Russia, as well as the King of Poland and Grand Duke of Finland. Some interesting facts about St. Petersburg is that we're quite a ways north, not that far from the Arctic Circle. In fact, during the summer, they'll get up to 22 hours of daylight in June and as little as 4 hours in November, getting an average of only 47 sunny days per year. Across the street is the impressive St. Isaac's Cathedral, one of our stops for tomorrow. Our next stop is a McDonald's for a bathroom break, before taking a ride on the metro. You may ask, what's so special about taking a metro ride? Well, the metro system in St. Petersburg is the deepest in the world. Even though this isn't the deepest station in the world, it is the deepest in St. Petersburg at 282 feet, and it's known for its architecture and fine mosaics. Elena next takes us to Peter and Paul's fortress and cathedral, where many of the great Russian rulers are buried, including Peter the Great. The cathedral looks quite a bit different than your typical Greek Orthodox church, with its exterior having a Dutch architectural feel, and its interior laid out more like a Catholic cathedral. With marble being scarce in Russia at the time, all the columns here are painted faux marble, except of course for the burial monoliths. These are of Alexander II and his wives, made of gray jasper and pink rhodonite.
This tombstone is dating 2005 with the remains of Alexander Maria Feodorovna, Nicholas II's mother, and portrait of her. And you know that remember I told you that it was designed by a Catholic. And there are so many things which are more typical of the Catholic churches in this cathedral. Let's take a pulpit. In the Russian Orthodox Church, so they never preach the
After leaving the cathedral, we're heading toward Peterhof Palace and Gardens. Instead of the 2-hour road trip, we're taking the half-hour hydrofoil ride across the bay. One thing you notice is there's a lot of new construction around. Here's the old stadium, and the new one, expected to open next year, along with a new highway. This Silver Dome building is one of the world's largest indoor water parks, just opened in 2012. After arriving at the pier, we take the short, windy walk to the gardens and the wonderful fountains. This is called the Grand Cascade, and in the center, Samson, wrestling at the jaws of a lion. They consist of over 64 different fountains and over 200 bronze statues and bas reliefs. The gardens consist of over 150 fountains, all fed by gravity. The water system stretches over 13 miles and stores enough water to run the fountains for up to 10 hours a day. During World War II, the estate was ravished like most of the others in the area. An attempt was made to dismantle and bury some of the fountain sculptures, but 3/4 of them, including some of the largest, were destroyed during the German occupation. Well, it's time for lunch, and it starts off with a big tureen of borscht soup with dollops of sour cream, and of course some shots of vodka to go with it. After lunch, we're heading off to the extravagant Catherine's Palace. The palace is named after Catherine I, who ruled Russia for 2 years after the death of her husband, Peter the Great. The palace started off as a simple 2-story residence, but it wasn't until their daughter, Empress Elizabeth, who took the modest home and expanded it to the grandeur it sees today. I just love these two little statues, Cupid Awakening and Cupid Sleeping, sculpted by Wiktor Broski in 1860. This is the Amber Room. It was looted in World War II by Germany, but in 1979 efforts were undertaken to rebuild the room, and it reopened in 2003. Like Peterhof Palace, this was all but destroyed during World War II. Squeezing out a little bit more time before we left, Mom bought a Russian doll at the gift shop before we headed back on the road for our trip back to St. Petersburg. Before heading back to the ship, we stopped off at a souvenir store to pick up some quick mementos and a couple more free shots of vodka. It's been a long and interesting day, and we look forward to our second day in St. Petersburg tomorrow.